welcome. Don Jennings, Senior Director of Communications here at HYCU. I'm joined with a number of our HYCU customers to talk to you about their journey to the cloud, their journey in the cloud, some of the technologies that they leveraged over time, and most importantly, glean some best practices and lessons learned as part of that journey. Before I I'll turn things over really quickly. I have Rama Gude, Senior Director of SaaS Cloud Operations at Zebra, Sean Helzer, who's Infrastructure Operations and Technical Lead at Pinnacol Assurance, and Yanni Soterio, who's the Group Manager in Business Systems and Technology at Southern Cross Care in Australia. So really appreciate you all spending time with me and us, and then also in terms of sharing a little bit more about what your experience has been, especially with Google Cloud and the public cloud platforms, and then some of the technologies that you brought in-house. So without further ado, I can turn things over to you, Rama, for a brief intro and background.
Hi, this is Rama Gude, Senior Director, SaaS Cloud Operations from Zebra. So we were part of Zebra, used to be Reflexes Systems from Boston. So once we got acquired in 2020, so we were introduced to the Google Cloud because Zebra uses Google Cloud. And we started the journey beginning of 2021. Since 1.5 years, we have been using Google Cloud, and we can talk more about it as we go through this discussion.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And Sean Helzer, Infrastructure Operations and Technical Lead at Pinnacol Assurance.
Sorry, I had my mic muted. So my name is Sean Helzer, Infrastructure Operations here at Pinnacol Assurance in Denver, Colorado. We're a workman's compensation company here in Colorado. We serve more than half the state workers here with just workman's compensation insurance. So it's been around for about 100 years overall as an organization. It was originally started by the state. And yeah, we have an interesting cloud journey between our on-prem and our cloud environments for backup. So happy to be here and talking with you guys about it today.
Awesome. And Yanni Soterio, Group Manager, Business Systems and Technology at Southern Cross Care.
Hi, my name's Yanni. Working for Southern Cross Care here in Australia. We look after a few regions in South Australia, Victoria and Northern Territory. We are one of the leading aged care and retirement living providers here in Australia. So looking forward to giving you a bit of an insight on our journey from our legacy on-prem environment into Google Cloud.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. So just for the purposes of those that are dialing in and listening in on this, like I said, three agenda topics we want to get through, just the objectives and what your objectives were in moving to the cloud, some of the technologies that enabled you to make that move, and best practices and lessons learned. So we can take that away and start off fresh. Rama, curious to know sort of where you were, why Google Cloud, sort of how you were balancing the on-prem and public cloud platform, and a little bit more background on what the need was to make that move.
Okay, so I mean, as I initially stated, we are primarily on-prem. We have multiple data centers across the globe, and we used to maintain our own infrastructure and self-manage primarily. And we are a SaaS provider, so we do the hosting of our applications, which is our task management and workforce management are primarily both products, which has multiple modules. We have several customers across the world, across the globe, and once we got acquired and became part of Zebra, and they started asking us to, why don't we look at Google Cloud? And they already started a journey of Google Cloud prior to that. So it was interesting to look at it because we were on-prem doing everything ourselves. And I know there are a lot of challenges as we started this, because I built primarily the SaaS solution and all the on-prem data centers. We started with 1 and went all the way to 9. So I know the pain. So let's look at Google Cloud. And then obviously the first question that comes up is, why are we moving? What benefits you will have? Are there any cost savings is the thing. And those are things that popped up because we are looking at what we spend today in on-prem. And if we go there, is there anything that we see benefits and cost savings? So we spent almost a quarter to look at the costs, Google cost models, because everything is new to us. We didn't know what we are going into, and everything is by minute. You build by minute or second, whatever it is. So we looked at it and we understood their the cost model, the compute model, all those things they have, and also look at all the Google Marketplace technologies that are available.
Mhm.
And our system is a web-based, which is a Java-based, and we use a lot of IBM technologies, which is the DB2, WebSphere, MongoDB, Cognos. So our initial thought was to do a lift and shift. I want to use the same stack and move it to Google Cloud, see how that can happen, and see what is available in the marketplace. So after we did the cost savings analysis, we understood and we definitely saw savings, definitely, and our leadership was pretty much convinced, and they blessed us. Now the journey is, there is a learning curve for my people, my team. We don't know all the things and the buzzwords, technology, terminologies, VPCs, all the things that we are new to, and things like that. So we spent some time in getting some training through the Google, got some training for us. And then we also engaged Google professional services to help us in the design and architecture. That's one thing that definitely helped us to understand, sit down with the Google architects, and then figure out how the future state will look in a bigger picture, because we have at least 6 to 7,000 VMs I need to move from one state to a different state. It's a big lift and shift.
Mhm.
And we have customers who are 24/7. There should not be any impact to the customers and all those things. So it's very, very important to do a seamless migration to the Google Cloud. So we spent decent time in understanding that, design the architecture, and then during that process, we looked at some technologies like one of them is ActiveIO, NetApp, obviously Google Load Balancing, and then HYCU also popped up. Actually, HYCU popped up in April of last year in 2021. So we looked at it, and then we started figuring out how to move the workloads. And we started May of 2021. And as of now, we finished 75% workload migration to GCP, and the remaining 25% will be moved in the next 3 months.
Is that sort of the target time frame that you were looking at for the journey?
Yes, September, October will be shutting down all the remaining data centers.
Wow, that's amazing. Sean, a little bit of background in terms of what you were looking to do for your move to the cloud.
Yeah, I would say we're kind of at a point with our cloud journey where we're really looking for those pieces of the cloud and the cloud technology that really bring a big benefit to us. You know, I think some of the areas where we've gotten a lot of value out of is things like BigQuery, and then bringing in other applications like Looker to do a lot of this big data kind of collection and aggregation, and creating those, you know, data lakes that the business intelligence teams can go in and then start to look at, and then start to leverage some of their machine learning tools to look at. I mean, being an insurance company, we just have a lot of data, and whether it's on the underwriting side where we're trying to come up with the appropriate risk for a policy, or we're, you know, the other analyzing the claim side of things about how claims are being paid and things like that. There's just a lot of data that we deal with. And so I think the cloud has really enabled us to kind of deal with those things at scale, and explore different ways to use our data and look at our data, and kind of identify places where we might be able to find value in that data. Whereas it being in an on-prem environment, we don't really have the scalability and quick to be able to quickly scale and flex around, you know, experimenting and trying with those different things. So I think it's been one of the ways. I think the other kind of driver for us was kind of from the development perspective, is, you know, leveraging Kubernetes and to be able to allow the development teams to more quickly develop and deploy applications. And doing that in the cloud environment, again, kind of gave us kind of the scale and flexibility for that. So, and then really when it came to, you know, data protection and everything, you know, we're in the traditional backup and recovery mindset, you're always trying to get your data from where it is on-prem, you know, to somewhere else. And so, you know, whether you're always architecting saying, hey, we need to get it from this data center, and we're going to send it over to this data center in order to keep it separate in case something happens. And so it's a really natural fit to say, well, let's take it out of our infrastructure completely and get it up into the cloud and some things like that. And so, some of the drivers around that for us was kind of a timing thing, where as we were looking at replacing our backup system, we had a hardware that was coming, that was needing to be replaced. And also the concept of wanting to have a bigger emphasis on protecting against ransomware, protecting against those kinds of things. And so looking for things that allow you to really make your backup system like one of the most secure systems on your network. Because if your backups get lost and cracked, then in some sort of ransomware type attack, then you're kind of at a game over standpoint. So that's why some of the cloud stuff was very attractive to us when it came to the data side of things, and that scale. Like mentioning the scale, like when we say, well, we need to keep things, what is the time frames that we need to keep stuff for? A lot of that, as IT professionals, we know in our day-to-day operations, we don't typically have to go back to a backup from even a month ago or 6 months ago or a year ago, but we have to keep it that long for compliance reasons. Sure. And so, looking for technologies that allowed us to, keep a portion of what we want on-prem for quick restores and recoveries, but then also have that longer-term retention in the cloud. Those are kind of some of the things where kind of the benefits of the cloud were kind of a good fit. I don't think was really a cost driver for us in a lot of ways, as much as how does this technology better fit what we're looking for as an organization.
Gotcha. How far along would you say you are in that journey? It sounds pretty far along.
Yeah, I mean, from our data protection standpoint, we are kind of completely into the hybrid world where we're leveraging cloud as kind of the primary long-term retention for our backups and stuff. I would say overall, between our on-prem environments and our cloud environments, I would say we're probably about 50% on-prem and 50% in the cloud if you were to look at systems and things like that. And where we land on that is still kind of up in the air. We're still on that journey of figuring out what makes sense to be on-prem. We have our what would be called our legacy insurance information system, which still plays a key part in what we're doing. And we haven't, we're on a road to migrate into newer systems, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And so we don't have a particular metric or goal to say we're trying to get to a certain percentage by a certain time frame or anything. I think we're really trying to approach it in a very experimental journey of saying, how, trying to analyze and say how do these things best fit the organization and help us meet our organizational needs.
So out of curiosity, as Rama mentioned, what was the new lexicon for going to cloud versus on-prem for you and your team, and sort of getting used to regions and things like that?
Yeah, I think that there was a lot of concepts with that, coming across and trying to understand how some of the different networking pieces, it's a little more ethereal. You gotta figure out where is it actually going? Where are my bits actually being stored? And is that a safe place? And so when you start talking about multi-region and understanding kind of all those different concepts and everything, certainly getting into the complexities, the IAM, complexities of that's been a challenge to try to do that in a very secure and best practice, least privilege type way. Sure. Kind of across all the different products and stuff, learning how to piece all those things together has been a journey of learning differently.
Oh, cool. So Yanni, in terms of your organization's objectives and sort of how cloud came about and where you're at in that journey, I'd be curious to hear from you as well.
Yeah, so Southern Cross Care, we for a while there, we're running a very legacy Windows environment. We had our own data center. Everything is basically running on-prem. and we made the decision that rather than investing in renewing all this legacy hardware, we start to look at cloud and what their offering is. So, but we didn't just look at it from a data center perspective. We also looked at it from, where's the business going? So running old Office, old Outlook, they made a decision to head towards the Google path. So we did it was a bit of a transformation project, getting everyone into Gmail, getting everyone into Google Drive, actually using Chrome OS devices. And that sort of naturally led into where we head for cloud for our data center. So a lot of what we did, we basically migrated straight into Google Cloud. We did a bit of lift and shift and a bit of generating new environments.
Yeah, there's definitely some some things that you get, because we also migrated into Workspace, and definitely there's some synergies that you get, or some things with how you can build an application to talk from Workspace as like a Gmail plugin and stuff into Google GCP as well. So, those are kind of some things that you can look at doing and everything.
Yeah, I mean, so for us also, I mean, we looked at, obviously, we are also looking at redesigning our products into Kubernetes, containerization, and microservices. And Jibra already uses those services for some of their other products already. So that's other thing that made it easy also, is to first thing is to move to Google Cloud as fast as we can.
Sure.
And then look at leveraging all the Google native technologies available and standardizing across the organization. That's also very important. And as we see, it becomes much easy to design systems, and integrations becomes easy, scalability. So there's a lot of positive and pros we saw, and that also definitely is one of the reasons to move into the Google Cloud platform and take advantage of some of those things.
Gotcha.
And we also try to look at all the, as I said, backup is one of the key things, because we do have a lot of stringent restrictions of how long to keep the backups and all those things. So we started, obviously, because of being some of the legacy technologies like DB2 or something, sometimes it's not easy on the Google Cloud, because Google has its own database engines like Cloud SQL and BigQuery, Bigtable, Spanner, and all these things. So we are not there, and we use MongoDB Atlas. That's the other one we made a decision to. So on-prem, we were using a MongoDB. On the on-prem side is different. Atlas is a database as a service. So there is a learning curve for us, and we also see value in cost savings moving to MongoDB Atlas. So that is the other reason we made the decision also. And we are taking advantage of all the services that we get through the MongoDB database as a service also.
Great. So if we were just to transition to, in terms of some other technologies, where would you say data protection was when you initially thought, or in your process of moving to the cloud and taking advantage of?
Yeah. So when we started, obviously we looked, I mean, we did not, at least, so the things that we use is HYCU is a Google product. So we looked at it, and at that time, as I told, we also looked at HYCU, but HYCU did not have the features we are looking at initially last year when we started the journey. For example, some of the database backups for DB2. So we went with HYCU, but HYCU has its own limitations. So then as we started working with HYCU and the leadership, they started building some new features and functionalities. One of them is the DB2 snapshotting. Our DBs are very big. So we wanted to have a snapshotting way, because I can take a production snapshot, put it in a non-prod quickly, faster, in a few minutes. So HYCU gave us that leverage. That's one thing we are transitioning. This actually, we just started the journey first quarter of 2022. And the other one we saw, we are looking at is how do we do disaster recovery and business continuity and data protection too. So we are looking at those things. And as I told, we in the Google Cloud, we looked at HYCU and a couple of other tools, and we started using HYCU as our VM backups to do snapshots. And HYCU is also providing some new features in doing disaster recovery and business continuity. So they were pretty fast in bringing new features to the market, and that's one thing we liked, and we were able to work and quickly get them and started. So we started using that also into our operations, cloud operations right now, and then we also are taking advantage of some of the data protection things that HYCU has.
Gotcha. So Yanni, in terms of where you are in some of the technologies and maybe data protection in the overall scheme of the journey, how's that been, and sort of what were some of the things that you needed to consider as part of that?
Yeah, I mean, data, because we're in the field that we're in, we need to keep data for 7 years. So obviously we needed to find the right platform which was, moving from an on-premise where you use your own storage, and backup appliances, and you've got only a finite amount, moving to a product that's easily scalable. So, using Google Cloud Storage, connect that into HYCU. We work out the policies, the backup retention policies that we need, and we know that we don't need to, worry about, need to start adding a new SAN or new storage or whatever it might be. So changing the mindset a bit, especially with the engineers as well. You just don't need to worry about that anymore. So it's definitely important to us. Quick recovery as well. So, being able to restore snapshots, not just in the region that we're in. So looking at, if there's a bigger failure across the Google platform, obviously, hopefully it doesn't happen, but having the flexibility to restore into different regions and to do it quickly is key as well. So, we can ensure we can keep the business operating.
That's awesome. And then Sean, as it relates to some, I think you touched on it a little bit, and it was interesting that you talked about ransomware being a consideration as part of your journey to the cloud. It's not typically what you would hear, but obviously with, as they say, an attack every 11 seconds and sort of it being a predominant concern across the board, both from cybersecurity teams, but most nearly any infrastructure team. It was interesting to hear you bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was, something that, that the security team kind of brought to us in saying, hey, like, this is something that we want to make a lot larger priority to protect ourselves against this. We had a local state agency a few years ago that was kind of hit by a ransomware attack that, and so there we kind of had a close example of something like that, of wanting to kind of think about being prepared for that.
Sure.
I think the ability of backup products and being able to use HYCU to take our on-prem systems and restore them in the cloud, and even use that as a migration path, as a migration tool to help us, take something that we protected on-prem and bring it up in the cloud, I think is one big factor. And then also just from a general perspective, from like disaster recovery, of being able to be confident that we can take systems that were backed up on-prem, and in the event of a major disaster, we could bring them online in the cloud. With the doing protege, that kind of thing. But then also even we use Nutanix for our on-prem infrastructure, and so one of the things that we're looking into working with is using Nutanix cloud clusters to instantiate clusters in the cloud, but then using HYCU as the point. So we've got our safe data in the cloud, and so we can build out a cluster in the cloud, and then start bringing our VMs that were on-prem and our data that was on-prem and restore it into that kind of cloud environment. Or we could choose to restore those same VMs into our GCP environment, and so to just have that kind of flexibility in everything, I think is super helpful. We use Megaport, as from an enabling technology for cloud stuff. We use Megaport, Equinix. There's several of them out there for being able to provide those connections from our data centers into GCP, but then you can do cloud to cloud with those as well. So we could, take something that was over in AWS and connect it into GCP, and kind of push the data around the cloud that way. So those are some of the technologies that we play with and try to work with to try to see how they can kind of make things work well for us.
Great. Well, I'll turn this over to anybody that's comfortable sort of chiming in first, but sort of any lessons learned that you think were important as part of either the decision to go leverage Google Cloud and or cloud resources, anything that you think that would be helpful for those that are listening in and hearing this for the first time that might help them as they either determine what technologies to leverage and or sort of, approaches to take, and even consider if shortcuts to take that might help in terms of timeframes.
Happy to jump in here. We're sort of at the tail end of our journey, so we've gone through all the ups and downs and made a few mistakes and have learned from them. Some of them more costly than others. But for anyone out there that's looking to migrate to the cloud, one of the key recommendation I would say is have a play before you start migrating loads. So I know all the big players, they've all got calculators. They'll tell you estimates on how much you're going to use. If you can get the budget, if you can get some money to play with, throw some compute, throw some VMs up there and see how they actually operate. What we found is, yes, we did all the calculations. It's round about the mark. Some things weren't. So it's good to get your own runs on the board, have a look at what your billing is, and go from there, basically.
Awesome.
Also having a look at, we're all used to running, let's face it, all cloud compute. There's a cost involved with runtime and licensing and all the bits and pieces that go with it. We've come from an age where everything is on-prem. We own the tin, we own the data centers. We're going to leave everything running 24/7. So, little mind shifts on scheduling your workloads. Do your systems need to be 24/7? So for instance, does your financial ERP system need to run 24/7? Does your finance team work at 1 o'clock in the morning? Some do. Ours sometimes does. But the majority of the time it's a 9 to 5 application. So if they don't need it, why leave it running? UAT systems, do you need them running all the time? That's typically something you would leave on, having your own on-prem environment. So having to think about the availability of your systems, can you schedule them to turn on and off, to save some compute, save some costings.
That's awesome.
That's probably one of the two major ones that have come across our plate to our transition into the cloud.
How about you, Rama?
Yeah. For us too, obviously, when we started the journey, as I stated earlier, we took a lot of precautionary steps of doing a POC to make sure we understand the technologies, what we are, and what technologies we could. There's so many pieces in the marketplace, and a lot of things are available. So you need to make the right one that fits your need, and also make sure it works for our use case. We need to make sure. And we did spend some time doing a POC, and then after that, we also spent time in architecting, because taking advantage of the multi-region and all these multi-buckets, backup and recovery, looking at all those things. Because on-prem, you design your own solutions, and you build over a period of n number of years, and then you get used to one way off. And so that's one thing that was different for us, because a lot of things are provided as a service, and things, and then there's a cost involved. And you also need to make sure. The other thing is, when you, at least in Google, obviously, if you do commitments 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, the savings are significant. So you need to look at your cost savings. How do you commit for your workloads? What is your future growth? And also, how do you shut down if things are not in use, weekends, evenings? Well, some of those things are new, because as my other colleague stated, we never shut down on-prem. We run 24/7. And people don't realize, and everything they think is free. So it is not. Once you start moving to the cloud, you have to keep an eye of how you spend your money wisely, correct?
Yeah.
So that's a good lesson. And obviously, and we need to let our engineering, other non-production, other teams know, guys, please keep a watch. This is how we should do. This is a different world. This is where we moved, and there are advantages. And if you don't do it right, it'll cost you more money. Yeah. So some of these are very important, I think.
How about you, Sean?
I'd say a few kind of lessons learned I'd throw out there. kind of has to do definitely around the cost thing. And I would say like spend some time to really understand your billing systems and to monitor them on a regular basis, set up alerts, things like that, because because you pay for everything you do in the cloud, it's a really good indication of how your organization is actually using the cloud. And so it's a good place to invest some effort into that. I'd say, always take like a, kind of a crawl, walk, run type approach with your systems, where you really come together with a good kind of testing plan, and don't just assume that because you did some calculations that it's gonna, to Yanni's point, like, don't just assume that because you went through and did some calculations on it that you understand how much it's going to cost, or how much data it's actually going to work, or how much compression you're actually going to get. Think about the whole pipeline of the data, where it's going, what it's going through. We ran into some issues that as bandwidth has kind of gone up and up and up, and then then we're finding, we've got routers and firewalls as we're trying to push our data up and our connections into the cloud that aren't ready for those quantities of bandwidth that would normally just be running through your core data center thing. So I'd say those are some of the things to think about with it, and really as you consider like whether you need a cloud backup solution, you really need to take backups out of the hands of the people, the people that can create the VMs and that can delete the VMs. You don't want them to be able to like do anything with the backups. And so that's why like things like just snapshotting your VMs within, is not a sufficient protection for your data and for your configuration and everything else. So yeah, I would say those are some of the lessons and things that we've come across in our journeys.
Well, I appreciate it. Wise words. So Rama, Yanni, and Sean, thank you so much for joining us. For those that are interested, you can get in touch with HYCU. Check us out at HYCU.com, or obviously experience this firsthand at HYCU.com, demo HYCU, and we're always available via email as well, or snail mail. So thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your time to do this. Also appreciate your support and interest in HYCU and what we have to offer, especially as it relates to your journey to Google Cloud and cloud technologies. So for those that joined us, we really appreciate it. If you have questions, feel free to drop a note to us, or feel free to hit me up at don.jennings@hycu.com. And we'll certainly look forward to checking back in and see how the journey's going over the months and years ahead. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.